Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we've got the Forester back, working on it again. What we've got going on this time is the rear wiper stopped working. You can see it got stuck about halfway through its swing there on the rear windshield. This is actually something that I fixed a little while back. I think the reason why it stopped again was when we had it loosened up, when we were messing with it when we replaced the switch for the rear hatch here in the last episode. So today we're going to go ahead and tackle that and get this rear wiper working again. So first of all, I'm just going to show you, obviously you can clearly see something's not right with it because it's stopped here and not down where it should be. But if we come over here in the car and we go ahead and turn the wiper to on, you can see that the wiper's not working. So I just want to show you how the wiper looks before it gets to this point, because in this particular situation, it's not actually the wiper motor. It's simply that the arm is stuck. And usually what'll happen, is what's happened both times to me, is you'll notice the swing of the wiper will start to get real slow to the point where then it stops. So let's see if we can't free it up, and I'll show you how slow it is. So I've just put it in the on position, and we're just going to try to kind of catch. There we go. It wants to go, but see, I don't want to leave it on too long, so I don't want to burn the motor up, but well, I thought I'd be able to show you how slow it is. It wants to go, but that's what you'll notice before it stops, is it'll just get real slow. So without dragging this on too much, let's go ahead, we'll get our hatch open here, and we'll get started on freeing this wiper motor up. So the first thing we want to do is, there's just a cap cover here on the base of the wiper arm. We want to go ahead and just pop that right off. And then we have a 10mm nut here. Just going to go ahead and zip that right off. Now if you're lucky, you can kind of grab on here, wiggle this like towards yourself, not really side to side obviously, but toward yourself and back down. And this may just pop off, but the shaft here for the wiper motor, it's actually tapered and splined. So when you tighten that nut down, it forces this wiper arm onto that shaft, and it's on there pretty good. So I just want to show you, in case it doesn't simply pop off, what I do to get these wiper arms off. Okay, so all I do is I take a 2-jaw puller, get it underneath both sides of the base of the wiper arm. And usually you can just do this by hand. You don't really need a wrench, I've found, just turning the puller with your hand will work. But you just get that puller on there, and there you go, popped right free. And that'll pop it off. You just kind of want to be careful around the base of the wiper arm here. It is just a composite plastic, and over time they can get brittle, and you don't want to accidentally snap or break anything here. Alright, so now we need to get inside the hatch. So the next thing we need to do is we need to get this interior panel here down. So it's going to be this interior panel and then these two side pieces. I'm going to zip right through this, but if you want a more detailed look at how these panels come down, go ahead and check out the last video we did where we replaced the opening switch button for this, and I'll link that down below. Alright, so now that panel's down, we have our wiper motor assembly here. First thing we're going to do is we just want to unplug the electrical connection. Take that down, and we're going to remove these 3 10mm bolts here. And now your wiper arm assembly should come right out. We'll take this over to the bench and take a closer look at it. So this is your wiper assembly. And you can already see right off the bat, if you go ahead and take and look at the shaft here that the wiper arm sits on, we can already see a ton of this corrosion that builds up, especially if you're like me and you live in a area that uses a heavy amount of road salt during the wintertime. This is just going to happen. We could just clean this up and it'll probably be fine because I've already disassembled this in the past to do this cleaning. But I just want to show you guys how to break this down all the way and get this shaft really clean before you put it back in. So first we're going to start, there's 4 Phillips head screws here, and those need to come out. And that's going to allow this bracket to come right off the actual motor assembly here. And that will expose the inside of your wiper arm assembly. You can see there's a little bit of orange in here. That's because I added a little grease last time I was in here. But what we need to do is we need to get this shaft out of here. So we're going to start on this side. And there's a little rubber boot here down at the base of the shaft. Just going to take our pick tool, free that up, and get that off of there. Now, before we get too far, this shaft needs to come through the assembly this way, and with all this corrosion on there, it's not going to do so, at least not in a good way, because it's going to want to bind up. So the first thing you want to do is, real quick, just take and clean up the shaft that the wiper arm sits on here with a wire wheel or some sort of abrasive pad, even some low grit sandpaper will do it. So next, we just need to get this shaft, it's going to be attached to this gear here, we just need to get this out of the assembly. I simply put that down against a surface. This is a wooden workbench, so I'm not too worried about protecting the end of the shaft here. If you're working on a metal surface, you might want to put a block of wood down. And then obviously not right above because that shaft needs to come out, but to the side we can just take a dead blow hammer. Okay, so it's actually no wonder that wiper is really slow. I was actually just pushing this down into the wooden workbench. I brought it over to the vise, so I had a harder surface to pound against, and it has started to work its way up. Once it starts to work its way up, just be conscious of where everything kind of goes. Because this whole assembly is going to come out with the shaft. And then your shaft will come out of the assembly. Now, we want to go ahead and slide this bit right off. And that's going to come right off. And now you're left with just your shaft. So go ahead and just give it a good cleaning real quick. Okay, so once the shaft's wiped down, one thing that I like to do is you can take the very end of your shaft, put it in the chuck of your drill, just being mindful that there are threads there. And you can take a piece of sandpaper, this is just part of a sanding disc that I cut up. You don't want to go too aggressive here, just enough to take the scale and the pitting off of the shaft, and just hold it in there. And just clean up your shaft. And once you're satisfied with that, I usually just take the same bit of sanding disc that we were just using, and then you can stick it down inside the hole that receives the shaft here. And just slide that down in and twist it around, get it up and down to clean any corrosion and scale out of that actual hole. And once you've got both the shaft and the housing cleaned up nicely, we're going to start our reassembly. So first, I just like to get a little anti-seize where that bracket meets this gear. We're going to slide this bracket back on. Feel free to throw any grease or anything here in this gear assembly, but it's still pretty well greased up from the last time I had this apart. Then just a good amount of anti-seize along your shaft here. And we'll slide that right back into the assembly. And you'll notice it fits a lot nicer now. Line everything up so it all goes back in there nicely. Don't forget to put any of these plastic covers back that may have came off as you were undoing your assembly. That one goes there, and this one just kind of sits right in there. Clean up your rubber seat that goes around the shaft. I like to take a little bit of grease and just put it inside the ring of the seat here, just to try to create a little bit of a waterproof seal as best you can. It's not going to be perfectly waterproof, but that'll help keep some of the water out. And then we can go ahead and put the cover back on. And now this is ready to go back in the car. And before we go ahead and start reassembling things, one other thing I like to do is just take a little bit of grease where your shaft comes through this kind of rubber grommet here, because this rubber does kind of get dry over time and not as supple, and adding a little bit of grease and just smearing it around where the shaft is going to touch the sides will help create a little bit more of a waterproof seal. Now we simply reinstall the exact opposite way that we took it apart. And now we're just going to install the trim back. So when we reapply the arm here, it should be roughly, the motor itself should be roughly in the same position it was when we took the wiper arm off. So try your best to put this back where it was. If it's not quite right, we can adjust it in a minute. So I'm just going to tighten this down lightly. And we'll go ahead and check the swing of the wiper arm here. The wiper arm is working beautifully again. We can go ahead and make sure this nut is fully tightened down and throw our cover back on. And there you have it. So there you have it, guys. I really hope you found this useful if you're looking at this video because you've got an issue with your rear wiper. If you do follow this procedure and it ends up solving your problems, feel free to leave a comment below. I always like to know when these videos help people. It's a great feeling to know someone watched it and it helped them work on their own vehicle. As always, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, hit that like button, and thank you guys for watching.